We've talked about the cult of the mother goddess and how it is really woven into the fabric of our social, cultural, and religious history in India specifically. Now, the Saptamatrikas, the seven mother goddesses that we've talked about earlier in the context of Devi's battle with the Asuras, have a very long history. They actually have their origin in many myths, legends, and also in the beliefs and practices of distant tribal mores. The Matrikas might have originated in tribal traditions and folk cultures, and they were the local goddesses most likely who protected the village boundaries, who supported fertility. They took care of the growth of children, who protected the village from diseases. And they come in myriad names, forms, and attributes. But in our context, we think about Brahmi, the creator goddess. We think about Vaishnavi, the one who maintains the universe. We talk about Maheshwari, the one who helps us with our individual goals. Varahi, who helps us reach for material success. Indrani, who fights on our behalf. And Kaumari. And so, seven different goddesses when we name them in that way. Now, sometimes the Ashtamatrikas are also talked about. We may add Vinayaki or Narasimhi to this group. Now, the faith in the mother goddesses or in spirits that might protect children is an ancient one, and its epic forms come later. Now, there are many different myths about the origins of the Matrikas in the Puranas and in the Tantra lore. Different versions of their origins are described in the Mahabharata, for example, the Devi Mahatmya, the Linga Purana, the Matsya Purana, the Bhagavata Purana, and the Vishnu Dharmotta Purana. So we can see that the epic forms of these matrikas emerged far later than the tribal forms that were worshipped at the village level. So it is in the Puranas that we find the Saptamatrikas, as we talked about earlier: Brahmi, Vaishnavi, Maheshwari, Kaumari, Varahi, Indrani, and Chamunda. Chamunda is the ferocious form who actually has defeated both Chanda and Munda and acquired that name, and later on is associated with Kali. So it is in the Puranas that these goddesses find their definite forms and acquire distinct personalities. Most of the Puranas, it is believed, came to be written around 250 AD. This is hailed as the Golden Age. The Gupta period, for example, 400 to 600 AD. During this time, in fact, innovations were made in art and in architecture, in literature. And Ananda Kumarasamy, for example, talks about how, quote, "It was indeed the classical face of Indian art, at once serene, energetic, and voluptuous." So it was an age of revivalism. This was the period when the Puranas were expanded and reinterpreted. And this literary production was really groundbreaking. So it brought the lore of the gods and the goddesses much closer to the common people. And we can then, we've talked a little bit about the battles of the various gods and the goddesses. So the one myth that is of great importance is the conception of the Saptamatrikas, arising from Devi during the battles between the Devas and the Asuras, right? The Devas being the gods, the Asuras being the demons. And this conflict is so fundamental that the theme persists as a central motif throughout the evolution of the Orthodox religion, and particularly that of the Shakta sect. So remember that the Shakta sect is the sect that worships Shakti, the goddess. And we've talked about Devi Mahatmya, the Devi Bhagavatam. This is different from the Shaivite sects that worship Shiva, and the Vaishnavites who worship Vishnu. And so the conflict between the Devas and the Asuras finds its reflection in a variety of different shades of interpretations. It provides so many different legends that talk about the origin of these different goddesses. For example, Dasha Mahavidya, Navadurga, Matrikas, and others. we talk about Navaratri, and in that context, we talk about Navadurgas, right? The appearance of the Saptamatrikas to actually help Devi in her battle with the Asuras, as it is said in the Devi Mahatmya, which is a part of the Markandeya Purana, as we've talked about in earlier videos, is among one of many different versions associated with battles between the Devas and the Asuras, where the Devis are battling the Asuras. So here the Matrikas arise from different parts of Devi in the Devi Mahatmya, and they are described as militant, as ferocious, martial. They are goddesses of the battlefield, right? And in the Devi Mahatmya, they have both sinister as well as propitious characteristics, right? After the battle, for example, the Matrikas dance drunk with their victims' blood, because they've all, for example, to kill Raktabija, they drink, so some of them drink his blood. And so, according to a different version from the Devi Mahatmya, during the battle against the demons Shumba and Nishumbha, the Matrikas actually emerge from the bodies of different gods, not from Devi. So they come out of Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva, Skanda, Indra, Varaha, etc. So, and Vishnu. So, as per the narration in a different place like Matsya Purana, Shiva created the 7 Matrikas to assist him in combat against the demon Andaka. So, Andaka is a very ferocious and powerful demon who actually battles Indra himself. After the battle, the Matrikas then go on a rampage, destroying all beings of the world, and the destructive Matrikas are then eventually pacified by benign goddesses similar to them, or counterparts to them, created by Lord Narasimha. So there are different versions. In the there is another text called the Suprabheda Gama, and it said that these 7 Matrikas were created by Brahma for the purpose of actually killing the demon Nirrita, right? So that's another version, right? So we've seen so far Devi Mahatmya, we have seen different texts talk about Dasha Mahavidya, Navadurga. We have seen, for example, Matsya Purana, the version where Shiva creates them to defeat Andaka. It's also the case that in another text, the Suprabhedagama, we see that these 7 Matrikas are created by Brahma for defeating the demon Nirrita. So different versions. Now, Varaha Purana actually comes up with a very interesting sidelight, right? It mentions that the Matrikas were created from the distracted mind of goddess Vaishnavi when she was trying very hard to meditate. And these Matrikas are described as lovely looking attendants assisting the goddess in the battlefield. A very different perspective, right? So, very interesting perspective. Then we have in the battles that are carried out by Skanda, by Kartikeya, right? The god of war, the son of Shiva, who came out of some people say out of Shiva's third eye. Some people say that after he and Parvati had made love for 1,000 years, he deposited his seed on the earth, and it was carried by god Agni and goddess Ganga, and then put in the near the Sharavana groves and picked up by the Kritikas and so on. So they think of this in these battles carried out by Skanda, replacing Indra, for example. The Mahabharata, the Shalya Parva, mentions that as many as 92 or more female warriors assisted him. So they fight the demons along with Lord Skanda, Lord Kartikeya. And among the unwieldy group of female warriors were a cluster of goddesses known as Matrikas. So some of these Matrikas in that context are described as having a youthful, lovely form, cheerful demeanor, fair skin, while the others had long nails, large teeth, protruding lips, striking terror. So we see both the benevolent looking goddesses, but who are also martial, and then you have the destructive looking or sinister looking goddesses with helping Skanda battle the Asuras, and that's where but they were all described as valiant, like Indra in battle. So there are wide-ranging narrations of where the Saptamatrikas, the Ashtamatrikas, Navadurgas came from. And so the other connection of the Matrikas with Skanda, with Lord Kartikeya, is in one of the legends associated with Skanda. Now this is mentioned in the Vanapura Parva of the Mahabharata. The Matrikas, known as Lokamatas, are a host of ferocious and terrifying beings. They're sent by Indra to kill the infant Skanda shortly after his birth. So this is a very interesting notion in the Mahabharata, and they function as a group, and all references to them are as a group, and they're inauspicious beings with very loathsome qualities. So the Matrikas emerge from, sent by Indra to kill the youthful Skanda for some reason. So then we have, in the same text, we actually say, okay, then the Matrikas might have emanated from the side of Skanda when struck by Indra's thunderbolt. And Skanda divides the host of fiery goddesses into Shiva, or auspicious ones, and Ashiva, which is inauspicious groups and of a malicious nature. So really interesting, different malevolent as well as benign references, benign contexts in which these Matrikas are being spoken about. In the Bhagavata Purana, they are even listed, some of them are listed as Ugras, Rakshasas, Pishachas, Bhutas, etc. So very interesting to see the different contexts and the way the female spirits are talked about. And in the next video, we'll talk about how the Matrikas are discussed in the context of Tantra. In this video, we've talked about how they appear in the Mahabharata, in the Puranas, and now we will go to the next piece of this in the next video, where we'll talk about how these goddesses are spoken about in the context of Tantra, right? Tantra ideology that brought up these Matrikas. Thank you for watching. This is Sundar Nathan. Hope you enjoyed this video. Please subscribe and comment, and look forward to hearing from you.